Tuesday afternoon to you. I hope you had a great holiday weekend. Thanks for joining us on Sports4CLE. Camryn Justice from News Channel 5 will be along a little bit later, but we are going to begin by talking Browns, and whenever we talk Browns football, we like to welcome in Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com, Kay Cabot. Kay, OTAs underway, another phase, and there are some players out in Berea for the Browns to physically coach out on the grass and get some things done today, tomorrow, in this phase of the OTAs.
Yes, Myles Garrett gave us a little bit of the sneak preview on Saturday night when he showed that he was boarding the plane and coming up. So there are a number of guys here. Most of them are the defensive guys because, as we know, the defense has been completely overhauled to the point where there will be probably 9 new starters on this defense. So these guys need to get in here. They need to kind of get their act together. So, you see guys here like Malik Jackson. You see the rookies here like JOK. You see Myles Garrett. Mack Wilson is here. So lots of defensive guys. And that's terrific because they really need to kind of get it together.
And is this an advantage? Does this help the defense just because you physically can be out on the field? You can kind of get that relationship going, and as much as anything, spatial relationship of how each other line up in this defense.
Yes, absolutely. They need to start to get to know each other. They need to start to kind of get their communication down, their timing down. The coaches have to decide who's going to wear the green dot and call the plays. And so there are plenty of things that they need to work on to kind of get their act together for this season because they're starting out against the Kansas City Chiefs, and they are going to have to hit the ground running.
When you look at how important these things are, last year they didn't have the ability to do that. Does this help the thing going into training camp, do you think, the organized team activities?
I think so. I mean, the first thing that will happen after these will be the mandatory mini camp. That will happen June 15th through the 17th. So they've got a little bit of time before that to kind of just sort of get to know each other a little bit and start to put some of the installation on the grass. It'll be mostly walkthrough pace. There will be a lot of instruction and things like that. But at least these guys will kind of get the feel for what they need to do. There are a lot of new guys that come from different schemes, and they're learning different terminology, different ways of doing things, emphasizing different things. There are guys playing multiple positions. And I do think that getting the defense here will go a very long way towards being ready not only just for training camp, but also for the mandatory mini camp before that.
Yeah, before we wrap up the whole OTA things, with that many new guys, is it just a matter of guys getting to know each other as well and kind of getting a feel for personalities? Is that something that can be an advantage here at the OTAs?
Yes, absolutely. These guys have the chance to develop some camaraderie, to go do some things together. We saw that, some of the rookies went up to Cedar Point. Those kinds of things, they really go a long way towards team building. And they didn't have an opportunity to do that very much last year at all. They didn't have the OTAs, and they didn't get this chance to really kind of get to know each other. And that's vitally, vitally important. The good thing about this defense is that there are a bunch of very personable guys. There are guys that are very gregarious and friendly and upbeat, like John Johnson and Greg Newsome. And I don't think it will take long for them to get to know each other.
Well, the other thing that happened over the weekend, Odell Beckham Jr. returned to social media, and he did so in style, an update of how things are going. Let's take a look at what Odell Beckham posted on his Instagram. And a lot of cutting and a lot of good things if you are a Browns fan. One of the things we had mentioned is we weren't seeing the sharp cuts that are associated with the recovery. We're seeing some of those cuts, and assuming all this is recent video, that's a really, really, really good sign for where Odell Beckham Jr. is in his rehab process.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be recent video. I think that's why he is posting it. And, he said, I can't believe it's only been 6 months. So I think that he's trying to show everybody that he is on his way back, that he's ready to go. It is pretty remarkable to see what he's doing after only 6 months out of ACL surgery. But those surgeries have come a long way in recent years. The recoveries have come a long way. There are different modalities that you can use to speed up those recoveries. And he really looks tremendous.
Yeah, and that's a good sign. Let's hope he's back at 100% right from the get-go. What about some other injury updates? Grant Delpit, Greedy Williams, those are guys that we saw some of the pictures of. How are they doing? Have you heard and looked into the rehab process for Greedy Williams and Grant Delpit, two young guys that the Browns, if they're healthy, that defense is just that much better?
Well, we got a chance to talk to Grant Delpit last week, and that was nice because we really had not talked to him since last summer. And it was great to get a chance to catch up with him, to hear how he's doing. He believes he will be fully healthy for training camp. That's great news for the Browns. They have big plans for him. Tough to come back from a ruptured Achilles tendon, but he looks tremendous. I had a little video recently of him sprinting full speed backwards, and then cutting on a dime. So he's doing all kinds of really good things. And same thing with Greedy Williams. Greedy continues to get good news on the nerve damage in his shoulder. That axillary nerve is still firing. It's doing well. And he should also be full go for training camp.
How big of a lift is that for the defense? I mean, those are guys that I don't necessarily know that the Browns counted on, because you can never count on somebody. But when you add all they did through the draft and their free agency, and then you get two guys back like that, highly thought of guys, those are added bonuses to what was already a strengthened defense.
Yeah, I mean, I actually do think that they have been counting on these guys for a while. They could see over the past few months that their rehabs were going very, very well. And, as recent, I mean, even after the season was over, in some of those early press conferences that we had with Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski, they were very optimistic that Grant Delpit and Greedy and Odell would be back by training camp. And that is proving to be the case so far. They all look better than I thought they would at this point. They'll probably be limited through the mini camp and maybe in the early part of training camp. But the way things are shaping up right now, I would think that all three will be on the field on opening day.
And that is good news for the Browns and their fans. Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com, and I going to step aside, take a quick timeout. On the other side of the break, one of the national ESPN folks thinks the Browns have the best roster in the AFC. We'll talk about that, as well as Myles Garrett, one of the top disruptors in the NFL, according to Next Gen Stats. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Life is starting to get back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tric-edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Sports4CLE continues. I'm Dave Bacon. We continue talking Browns football with Browns beat reporter from the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com, Kay Cabot. Well, the AFC has three favorites, according to ESPN's Marcus Spears. Chiefs, Browns, and Bills are tri-favorites in the AFC. Here's how Spears explains it.
Got the Chiefs as a favorite, but the best roster construction in the preseason belongs to the Cleveland Browns.
Ooh.
Okay, and it sparked my thought when you all talked about talked about the thinness of this team and it's some holes there. But when I look at this Cleveland Browns roster, I ain't talking about on the field.
On paper,
you start going, Kimberly.
I'm talking
about
paper
on
where.
paper.
Show me the loose leaf. Show me the loose leaf, because I gotta see
Odell
it. Where?
Beckham Jr.
Where?
Odell Beckham Jr. returning from injury.
Here we go.
Jarvis Landry. The tight ends were huge. We know what Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt is. This is arguably the best offensive line in the NFL. They signed Jadeveon Clowney. They brought in Hill and Johnson in the secondary. Randall Pitt may be healthy and ready to go. Denzel Ward healthy and ready to go, who's played magnificent when he's been on the field. Myles Garrett is better than anybody on the Chiefs team outside of Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. Look, I got them as dark horse Super Bowl contender, and we're talking about the Chiefs potentially going 20-0. On paper right now in the NFL, on the AFC side, the Cleveland Browns have the best roster. Quote me.
Well, let's bring back in Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com. Valid points, I think, about the Browns roster.
Well, they do have a very solid and strong roster. It's just going to be a matter of how it all comes together. I mean, now when you look at, a roster that was supposed to go very far over the last couple of years, one that includes Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry, Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, Baker Mayfield, a great offensive line, Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward. I mean, when you rattle it off, it is an absolutely tremendous roster. Now they have to just kind of bring it together. We know the offense kind of hit its stride midway through last season. Now the defense has to do the same thing. And again, they don't have a lot of time to make mistakes. They have to be ready to go against the Kansas City Chiefs in week 1. But I do think that he makes some excellent points. This is a very, very solid and deep, talented roster.
The more I think about it, the Browns, and nobody made a big deal about it, the Browns had a lot of injuries last year and were able to overcome them. I mean, when you think about Greedy Williams and Grant Delpit, those were guys that were penciled in to be starters that didn't play a down. You lose Odell Beckham Jr. early. You had offensive linemen going in and out pretty consistently. You had Myles Garrett, who was dealing with COVID. The Browns overcame a lot of injuries a season ago to get where they went.
Yeah, they did. The three biggest ones you mentioned were Grant, Greedy, and Odell, because those guys were supposed to all be starters last year. And then Andrew Billings opting out, that was another key factor, because I think he would have gotten a lot of playing time last year in that tackle rotation as well. So they did have some issues to overcome, but that's to be expected. Every year you're going to have that. You're going to lose 1, 2, 3, 4 guys. Some of those guys are going to be your key guys, especially now that they have a 17-game season. That's just one more game to lose more guys. And so, you just have to hope for some luck. In order to go all the way, you have to be lucky. And they're going to have to stay a little healthier probably than they did last year.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, the good fortune health-wise plays a large role in football without question. Next-gen stats, top disruptors from 2020. Number 1, T.J. Watt. Number 2, Joey Bosa. Number 3, Trey Hendrickson. And number 4, Myles Garrett. And that's just how good he was. And remember, he was slowed pretty substantially after his battle with COVID, too.
Yeah, he really was. He just was not the same player after that. And as we came to find out, he was dealing with asthma, so that just compounded things for him. But if you look at those, first couple of games, that first quarter or more of the season, he was getting those sack fumbles, which are absolutely huge. They were major reasons why they were winning early on while the offense was kind of finding its way a little bit. So if they can do that sort of thing from the start and the offense hits the ground running from the start, as we expect it will, this team can be dynamite.
Yeah, and the other thing is tell me if you feel this way. The way he was playing before he got COVID, he was going to be in the being Myles Garrett was going to be in the conversation as the Defensive Player of the Year.
Oh, he was definitely in the conversation before that. Absolutely. I mean, when you're making impact plays like that, getting those sacks and those strips and, changing the football game and making it so that your team is winning, those are the times when you end up deep in that conversation for NFL Defensive Player of the Year. It's not going to be easy. Some players will be coming back this year and battling him for that title. You'll have the Nick Bosa's back. You'll have Chandler Jones back. It's always hard to beat Aaron Donald for that. TJ Watt feels that he should have won it last year. You've got JJ Watt rejuvenated in Arizona. So there will be a lot of competition for it, but I think he'll be right up there.
So the question becomes, we saw earlier in the week, we saw last week it would have been actually, Myles Garrett playing basketball and dunking on some guys and looking like he can play basketball without question. I mean, we know what kind of athlete he is. Question is, does it concern you that he's playing all kinds of basketball, or is it just a way to stay in shape?
I'm sure a lot of guys play basketball at a very high level to stay in shape in the offseason. We don't often see it on social media the way that we've been able to see Myles hooping it up. And boy, he can play some basketball. Now, his brother was a former first-round pick in the NBA, Sean Williams, and he's played a lot of basketball with his brother, Sean. He actually wanted to be an NBA player, like a lot of NFL players also do. But he's played a lot of really high-level basketball in his life, and you can see how good he is there. So, yeah, I mean, in a perfect world, you really would not want your NFL Defensive Player of the Year candidate to be playing basketball that hard, but they're not going to stop doing that. They really do it to help them keep in shape and to do something that they enjoy. It's recreation, it's fun. Just hopefully he will stay healthy through that.
Yeah, like again, it can't live in bubble wrap, but again, I get the idea of people that are concerned about that. Before we go on to the next segment, let's talk a little bit about Julio Jones. Anyway, at all, the Browns are one of those teams that is potentially trading for Julio Jones now that it is June. I think it's 4 o'clock. Sometime today is when the salary cap hit for guys that are traded can be spread out. So this is when you would get the trades for Julio Jones, Aaron Rodgers anyway, specifically to Julio Jones. Any chance at all the Browns are having those conversations?
No. And I've been writing this since last week. I think the first time I wrote it was Thursday, was that they don't have any interest in trading for Julio Jones. They already have two receivers in that price range, in the $15 million a year range. And the two that they have now are currently 28, getting ready to turn 29 in November. So they are about 3 years younger or so than Julio, who turned 32 this year. And he missed some games last year with a hamstring. So it's not going to happen. There's no way that they're going to ship Odell to the Falcons and bring Julio here. None of that is on the table, and it doesn't really even need to be an issue going forward.
All right, Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com, and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. On the other side of the break, the Browns' hidden gem of the roster, and also Baker Mayfield in some elite company with a Hall of Fame quarterback, is the only two who have done a couple of things in their first 3 seasons in the NFL. We'll explain when Sports4CLE continues. Stay with us.
Life is starting to get back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tric-edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
COVID-19 has changed how we show up and show out with our family. Now it's time to take the first step that lets us get back to talking smack with a side of mac and cheese. Before we can safely come together, we need the facts. As COVID-19 vaccines become available, you may have questions. Should I get it? Is it safe?
Should I wait?
It's smart to question. Now, get the facts at getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision when vaccines are available to you.
Sports4CLE continues. I'm Dave Bacon. We continue talking Browns football with Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com. Mary Kay, Bleacher Report came out with hidden rookie gems from each of the 32 teams. For the Browns, they have wide receiver Anthony Schwartz. What do you think about Schwartz being that hidden gem from this rookie class?
Well, he could be, but I think that there are other guys who will probably make more of an impact as a rookie. But certainly, I think that if they can get him in here, work on those hands a little bit, get him coached up by Chad O'Shea, you just can't coach the kind of speed that he has. I mean, he runs a 4.26 in the 40. He is dynamite when it comes to taking the top off of the defense, and if he can couple that with some better hands than he has had so far. He will have some growing pains in that way, but if he can get that cleaned up a little bit, they will have something on their hands this season. And I think it's a weapon that they will use because if you can give a defense something to think about during the week, something to have to game plan for, and then something to worry about on game day, that goes a long way.
So this got me to thinking, who do you think on this entire roster could end up being a hidden gem for the Browns? Somebody that might be a little under the radar that you think could have a big season.
That's a good one. I think if we're going to go under the radar, because I wouldn't put Greg Newsome under the radar. I wouldn't put JOK right now under the radar. A guy that we haven't really been talking about all that much so far is Troy Hill, the cornerback that was signed from the Rams as a free agent. I think he's somebody that can come in here as that slot cornerback. And if he has a nose for the ball and he can grab some interceptions, he can be one of those guys that, that's maybe not front of mind right now, but can make some noise.
It's kind of interesting. Rams had one of the best defenses, the best defense in the NFL. Is it a coincidence that the Browns went and got two of their secondary guys, or do you think that's by design?
Well, it's by design. I mean, they could not afford to pay everybody that they wanted to pay this year, in part because they did make a mistake in terms of paying Jared Goff. And that is what that's why I've been calling the quarterback situation a cautionary tale when you look at Carson Wentz and Jared Goff, because it does impact your roster building over the next 4 or 5 years. If you make a mistake there, you're going to be in a world of hurt. And so therefore, the Browns were the beneficiary of that mistake in that they were able to sign away John Johnson. They were able to sign Troy Hill at, pretty reasonable amounts as well. And so they got two of the Rams' best secondary guys to add to their own, and I think they'll both make a big impact.
Well, you mentioned the quarterback, and let's take a look at this tweet. There are two players in the NFL, quarterbacks, that have at least 11,000 passing yards, 75 passing touchdowns, and an 89% passer rating in their first 3 years in the NFL. One of them is Baker Mayfield. The other is Dan Marino. It's pretty good company to be in your first 3 seasons in the NFL for Baker Mayfield. And Mary Kay, I think I'd give Mayfield an asterisk because he's done it in 3 different systems.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I just posted a story today. We're doing on cleveland.com 21 questions for the Browns in 21. And the one that I did today was, can Baker Mayfield put together one whole good season? He really hasn't had an opportunity to do that yet, which makes those numbers that you just cited all the more remarkable. He had half a good season in 2018. He did not have a great season in 2019, and then came back and had a really good second half last season. So now, can he put it all together is the big question. And as you mentioned, he's had all different kinds of systems. This is his first year in his career that he will be in the same system for 2 years in a row. I think that will be tremendous for him. I think he will hit the ground running and have a tremendous year.
I think he's probably more excited than anybody that offense comes back intact, because it gives him the ability to go deeper into the playbook and third, fourth, and fifth options on a lot of plays as well.
Yes, absolutely. And not only does he have all of his guys returning, but he has the coaching staff coming back really committed to add to this offense, to take it from where it was last year and to make it even more explosive, to be even more creative. I don't even think they've scratched the surface yet in the things that they can do. They have so many different weapons on this offense, so much talent. They did not have time to try to figure it all out last year and put in new wrinkles and do all kinds of cool things. This year, the sky is the limit for them. I mean, even when you look at like a Kareem Hunt and all the different things that he can do on the field, maybe even together with Nick Chubb on the field at the same time, just Odell coming back, trick plays. I mentioned in my story today that, I do envision an Odell Beckham Jr. touchdown pass to Jarvis Landry this year. There's so many different things that they can do, and now they've had the time to figure those things out. So I think you'll see some really exciting things, some very creative things. They'll utilize just the knowledge, the deep wisdom and knowledge that you get from a Chad O'Shea, from an Alex Van Pelt, Bill Callahan, Stump Mitchell, Drew Petzing. All of these great assistants that they have now will have a chance to give their input. And
that should alter a little bit. It'll put wrinkles in the offense. The offense will still be kind of what it is, but now Kevin Stefanski can go and add wrinkles that makes it even that much more difficult for defenses to figure out what's coming.
Yeah, they didn't really have an opportunity to do that last year. If they wanted to install something completely new, they just really didn't have the time to do it. You can't do that when you don't have preseason games. You don't have an off-season program. This year they've got a mini camp. They have an off-season program. They know what they're doing now. They know each other. They know so much more than they did at this time last year. It's absolutely incredible when you consider what they were able to accomplish last year with what little they had to work with. Now they've taken all those brilliant minds and they've sent them forth and said, come back better, come back stronger, come back with a new wrinkle, with a new scheme, with a new play, something. And I think that we will see the fruits of that this season.
Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, we'll look at some pro football focus rankings for the secondary of the Browns, some of the newcomers ranked highly by PFF. Sports4CLE, we'll be right back. Stay with us.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
At Social Security, we are always thinking of ways to save you time and make things easier. That's why we created My Social Security. A My Social Security account allows you to access your earnings history and benefits information, request a replacement Social Security card, get a proof of income letter, estimate and apply for benefits, and more. Save time. Go online. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security. Securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Welcome back to Sports for CLE. I'm Dave Bacon. We continue talking Browns football with Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com. Mary Kay, Pro Football Focus, the analytics-driven website, has ranked the safeties. Justin Simmons from Denver is number 1. Harrison Smith, Minnesota, number 2. John Johnson, free agent signing by the Browns, number 3. Ronnie Harrison, who the Browns traded for last year, ranked 30th. So 2 of the top 30, and John Johnson ranked pretty highly at number 3 in the NFL.
Yeah, that's a really nice high ranking for John Johnson. And, it almost seems like he, really kind of was elevated by signing with the Cleveland Browns. So good for him. I think he's going to be excellent in this defense, and I think he will live up to that. He's going to be surrounded by a ton of talent, just like he was in LA. And he's going to be a true leader on this defense. He's going to be able to play multiple positions. He's going to be on the field a ton, and just a great acquisition for the Browns.
Fair to say that when Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski and everybody looked at it, secondary was one of the areas they really wanted to upgrade. Just actions speak pretty loud, and that seems to be the area they thought needed to be upgraded the most.
Yes, definitely. Not only because it's such an area of emphasis, especially in today's game, but because they had Grant and Greedy coming off of those injuries. And you have to have insurance policies against those guys, because you just truly don't know, how that's all going to go, if they're going to be ready to go 100% right from the start, or if they are 100%. Are they going to last? Do they need some time off? So you had to have some backup for those guys, and they're pretty well stocked. I mean, I think they have exactly what they need to have an excellent secondary. And even though at times it seems like they might have a surplus at positions, I think all of those guys will play a lot.
So Pro Football Focus also ranked the slot cornerbacks. Kenny Moore from Indianapolis was 1, Bryce Callahan, Denver 2, Jonathan Jones, New England 3. Troy Hill from the Browns, another guy free agent signing, was 5. Brian Poole, who's still a free agent, the Browns kind of dabbled with, we heard the Browns might be interested in, was 7th, still a free agent. But Troy Hill, another free agent signing, ranked 5th by PFF slot corners.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty high. If you have your slot corner, your number 1 slot corner ranked 5th, and one of your starting safeties ranked 3rd, that is the makings of a very, very good secondary, and that's what they're going to need. I mean, pair those guys with, once again, an excellent player in Denzel Ward, and then you've got Grant, you've got Greedy. They have a lot going for them. We haven't even really mentioned that much Ronnie Harrison, who you said was 30th. But I mean, if you get those guys in that safety rotation, that can be really something else with Grant, Ronnie, and John.
Okay, let's take a slight turn here. So the Browns obviously have a number of guys that they would more likely than not that they want to extend. So Nick Chubb, Wyatt Teller, Mayfield, and Ward. I know you've written on this topic. Take us through the thought. Should the Browns extend Nick Chubb and Wyatt Teller before Baker Mayfield and Denzel Ward?
Well, as we know, Baker Mayfield and Denzel Ward have had their 5th-year options picked up, so they're under contract through 2022. So even though they will have those discussions with them, and they may even extend one or both of them this summer, they don't have to. There's not the sense of urgency to get that done right away. So I do think they really need to kind of take a look at what they want to do with Nick Chubb and Wyatt Teller, and how they want to manage their cap in regards to those guys, because they are heading into the final year of their contract. And therefore, if you don't get it done by the beginning of the season, a lot of times you're looking into either franchising one of those guys, or letting somebody walk, or just trying to get something done after the season. So I do think there is a little bit of a sense of urgency to try to, to get that wrapped up. You don't want that hanging over your head if you can avoid it. I think Nick Chubb, he could end up being a priority for them because of everything that he stands for this team. So I think he's somebody they'll try to do. And then, they can be creative with it. They can do something that includes incentives. It doesn't have to be a real long contract. It doesn't have to be a 5-year deal worth $16 million a year. Maybe they do something shorter that gives him an opportunity to re-up after that as well. So there are a lot of different ways you can approach it.
The other thing is, Nick Chubb is a guy that I'm sure they really would like to reward. And Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry, and particularly Andrew Berry, has shown signing guys early is something that he values and believes in.
Yes, absolutely. And, that is what you want to do. You want to draft well, and then you want to retain your own guys. You want to draft them, you want to develop them, and you want to keep them. That's the best way to go. And you want to do that within the framework of your roster building, within your salary structure as well. You don't necessarily want to have a bunch of super expensive guys on their second contract. You want to keep drafting and manage it from that standpoint as well. But when you get your star players like the Myles Garretts and the Denzel Wards and the Baker Mayfields, you want to get those guys to their second contract. You want them to be here. You want them to be the core of why and how you get to a Super Bowl, and that will be the approach.
Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for cleveland.com, as well as the Plain Dealer. As always, appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much for your time, Mary Kay.
Thank you. My pleasure.
All right, Mary Kay Cabot. Make sure you read her in the pages of the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com. Time for us to step aside, take a quick timeout. On the other side of the break, we're going to be joined by Camryn Justice from News Channel 5. We'll talk a little bit of Browns. Interesting story she wrote about Wyatt Teller, and he really likes Cleveland a lot, has fallen in love with the city. And we'll also talk a little bit of Indians a little bit later. Camryn Justice from News Channel 5 on the other side of the break. Stay with us on Sports4CLE. We'll be right back.
Life is starting to get back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tric-edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
As the COVID-19 vaccines become available, you might be asking yourself, should I get it? And if I do, will I be able to go about life without putting my family at risk? You've got questions, and that's normal. The fact is, the vaccines are safe and effective. They're going to save lives. To get the latest on the COVID-19 vaccines, visit getvaccineanswers.org, because getting back to the moments we miss starts with getting informed. It's up to you.
Welcome back to Sports4CLE. We continue talking Browns, and we welcome in News Channel 5's Camryn Justice to discuss an interesting story you wrote, Camryn, about the Tellers. So take us through that, what you found out, and how much fun you had writing the story on Wyatt Teller and his wife.
It was a great time. It was, one of those stories that you don't typically get to do. But it was just a lot of fun. So yeah, we talked about how they met, and it's just that typical, met through friends at a bar. But it was one of those situations where they didn't know that they were supposed to be together. They met, and that was kind of it. And then they reconnected a year later, And that was when he got traded to Cleveland, and he had to pick up, and she helped him move out here. And they've just been building this love story in Cleveland ever since, going out, exploring the city. They got a dog together, and they've been taking him out. And then from there, we talked about the engagement and him proposing at First Energy Stadium and incorporating his love for Cleveland, his love for being on the Browns, and then them getting married in Key Largo, and this beautiful ceremony amid the pandemic. They somehow made it work anyway, and their love story is just great. It's one of those stories that it's so relatable that it makes it even more special. It's like that could be anyone's story, and yet they're here, they're loving Cleveland, they've fallen in love in Cleveland, and they've fallen in love with Cleveland. And it was just a really great story to be able to tell. It was a lot of fun talking to them too.
It's really interesting because the fans, the more the fans got to know Wyatt Teller, the more that they liked him. Is he a guy that wants to be here long term? That extension thing is kind of looming. Did you get the sense that he wants to be a part of the Cleveland Browns and in Cleveland for a long time?
Yeah, we talked about that, and that was one of the things. He's been in talks. Him and his agent have been talking with the Browns, and that's just something they've already been trying to get an early start on, because he does want to be here. He does want to play for Cleveland and wants to stay in Cleveland, and his wife Carly does as well. That's something they love it here. So he did note that, yeah, the Browns have a lot of good players, and the money has to come from somewhere. And are they going to be able to pay everybody? Maybe not. And he knows that's part of the business, but he hopes that he can get it done. And they've been talking with Andrew Berry, with his agent, with the team, and trying to see how that is possible that he stays in Cleveland, because he would really love to be on the Browns for years to come.
I can tell you really enjoyed the story. What part of it was, what did you like the best about it? What part of it that maybe not everybody appreciated? Did you go, that's just kind of cool?
I love that. I love their connection. I love how they found each other. She's from where he went and played college football. And so she was just in her hometown, and he was back visiting friends, and their friends were like, hey, you should meet this guy. You should meet this girl. And just the way they connected, the timing couldn't have been better. So I just think that's my favorite part about it, because it could have gone so many different ways. Had she been out of town, had he not gone to the spring game at Virginia Tech, they maybe wouldn't have met, and they wouldn't have fallen in love. So that part right there, that just it melted my heart when they were talking about it, and just the love that they had for there, but then how they made Cleveland home. It was just so sweet. It was just moving. I love being able to not only hear their story, but then to share it with other people.
So the Browns have a number of people that are due for extensions. You have Wyatt Teller, Nick Chubb, of course, Baker Mayfield, Denzel Ward. Now, those two have the fifth-year option, so they're a little bit further down the line. Which of those do you think gets done first? Do you think any of them get done this offseason, since the Browns do have some salary cap available to potentially do one of those or two of those extensions? Yeah,
I think, like you said, with those fifth-year options being taken, I think that you gotta figure out if you want to keep Nick Chubb and Wyatt Teller here. You have to figure out those extensions first. I honestly think that Nick Chubb probably gets the look first, because as much as running backs get the brunt of the work, and they don't get to stay around in the league as long because the kinds of hits they're taking and the wear and tear on them. But Nick Chubb is something special. I think obviously you could get a running back that gives you maybe 70-80% of what Nick Chubb is. But are you willing to take that fall off and that step down from what Nick Chubb is able to offer? I think that he's a very, very special talent. I think that he is arguably, and I say definitively, I think is the best running back in the NFL right now. And I don't think that that's a gamble that you want to take, especially with a dominant run game and being able to mix up the offense the way that the Browns are able to do. And, Kareem Hunt is incredible in his own right. But I think that's what makes that backfield so special and makes the Browns offense so incredibly explosive, is the fact that you have him there behind Nick Chubb, and you have those paired up in the backfield, and you have the option to give Nick Chubb less snaps and less touches and keep his wear and tear on the minimal, because that's what keeps him available long-term to you. You don't risk all those injuries. And I think having Kareem Hunt there is really special too. So I do think that Nick Chubb, if they're going to really focus on that run game and keep that offense the way that it's been running from last season, I think Nick Chubb gets the extension first. And then depending on how Andrew Berry works things out, we know that he's kind of a wizard with how he builds these contracts and with the salary cap hits, and he can work things out like that. Depending on how he's able to maneuver these things, you might see multiple players getting extensions. And he's talked too about getting them done early, seeing the players, identifying the players with the talent that they want to keep going, and then giving them the extensions early on. I think Nick Chubb is one of those players that should be identified as that kind of talent. And then, yes, if you can make the money work, you can get that contract extension. I think Wyatt Teller is a huge piece, and he also deserves that extension because that run game is nowhere near as efficient without him on the field. We saw it. He's a top-rated guard in the NFL. That's not, again, another talent you don't want to lose. So it all comes down to money. Obviously, they don't have – if it was endless money and it didn't come down to salary caps, you would extend everybody, but that's not how it works. So I could see something where it's Nick Chubb first, maybe Wyatt Teller if you could work it out. And then depending on how this defense goes, with all these new pieces and parts, Denzel Ward got his fifth-year option. Will they continue? Will they add on years to that? Will they extend him? Will they offer him more? We're going to see him long term. That's also on the table. And that could change depending on how this offense or this defense plays out this season and how we see them perform with all these new pieces and parts, and see how Joe Woods makes them work.
So before you covered the NFL draft here quite a bit since it was in Cleveland. So let's switch our focus just a little bit, still Browns related. Which of the rookies do you think will have the biggest impact on the Browns this upcoming season? There's a few of them to pick from. Who do you think has the biggest impact as a rookie for the Browns?
I think it's going to be Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. I just don't see how he is not the most impactful because he's so versatile and so athletic. The way that he can get, side to side, and he's so quick and so strong. The tackling that he brings to this team, I think that you're going to see him all over the field. And he adds a layer of creativity that Joe Woods can use to give them different looks and mix up this defense and make them such a big threat. And I honestly, they've got a lot of good rookies, and they did a lot, and they've revamped this defense. But because of that versatility that Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah brings to this team, I think that he's going to be hands down the most impactful player. He, on paper, you can't ask for more. And I think if that translates on the field, a lot of Browns fans are going to be very impressed with what he's able to do this year.
Camryn Justice from News Channel 5 and I'm going to step aside, take a quick timeout. On the other side of the break, Camryn and I will talk a little Tribe Indians with Game 3 of a 4-game series against the White Sox. They split that doubleheader yesterday. Sports4CLE, we'll be right back talking Tribe when we return.
Life is starting to get back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tric-edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
First, they said cigarettes were safe. We know how that turned out. Now, they say they didn't market e-cigarettes to teens? Fact, more than 1 in 4 high school students are vaping, and 80% say their first e-cigarette was flavored. Vaping is harmful to developing brains. The reason we think vaping is safe? Marketing. Same lies, different day. Tell Big Vape to quit lying.
Welcome back to Sports4CLE. I'm Dave Bacon. We shift our focus a little bit. We're going to start talking some Indians, getting ready for the third game of a 4-game series against the White Sox over at Progressive Field. Yesterday, Indians split a doubleheader. Tristan McKenzie, who was sent down to Columbus, really has pitched pretty well in 2 starts since then. McKenzie, Indians did not win the game he pitched, the first game. He didn't take the loss, lost it in extra innings. And actually, Tristan McKenzie, minus 1 inning, pitched pretty well against the White Sox.
The biggest thing was I was getting ahead of guys. My fastball was working up in the zone, curveball down. My slider worked too. I think I was just kind of keeping them guessing, and I think I credit a lot of that to Renee.
Yeah, I thought he was really good. He missed some bats. He threw a good curveball. He attacked with a fastball and got it by their barrel for the most part. We just, in that inning, walk. There's the chopper that he kind of looked back to third. So we didn't get the out at first. That was a big play. That would have been 2 outs, and then they got a big double that cleared the bases.
The past 2 starts have been more of an indication of who I would like to be as a pitcher in terms of like how I attack hitters and how I can actually get outs. Just in like from the first inning to the 5th inning to hopefully the 9th. And I hopefully just continue going in this direction.
And I think what we're seeing is like when he does have a walk, he doesn't turn it into 2 or 3. He's gathering himself and he's coming back and using his best stuff, and that's a big step for him.
Let's bring back in Camryn Justice from News Channel 5. And Camryn, again, the Indians are going to skip the 5th starter because of days off and the like for the next couple goes through the rotation. But McKenzie's pitched pretty well, and you listen to him. Keep in mind it's a guy that has skipped AAA on his way to the big leagues. So this is a minor setback, and I think he could end up very well being back in this rotation before too much longer.
Yeah, he's been impressive. There's obviously been some woes, and that's what got him sent back down. But when you saw it at his last trip to the mound where he broke the club record and surpassed Corey Kluber's consecutive strikeouts. Those are the kinds of things that he's got it in him, right? And he's young and he's working his way into that control. You've seen him. One of the issues that got him sent down was the high walk counts, and he's lowering that, and you're seeing him get a little bit more control, and he is mixing up his stuff and gaining that, and that comes with time. I think that a lot of pressure has been put on him in this moment with all of these injuries and the hits to the rotation. But you'll see, hopefully, as that pressure lessens and he's just able to naturally, gain control of his stuff and his pitches and just his overall game. I think you're going to see him kind of come into his own. We've already seen it. He's this talent that everyone was excited about to see him come up and get called up to the tribe. And so now we're seeing him in those moments, and he's young. It might be rocky. There might be those times where he's got those rough outings, and that's why he's, back and forth, going down to Columbus or wherever they're sending him and then pulling him up. Those decisions make sense because he is young and he's working on that. But it's really good to see that when he comes back up, even after that rough couple outings where you got him sent back down, when he gets called up and he comes out and he pitches like that, breaking club records, showing that control, showing improvement, that's what you want to see out of a young guy like that. So I think that he's got so much potential and he's very exciting to watch. And I think no matter, even if it is a little rough, the fact that he is progressing, that's what matters here, and that's what people should be excited about when they're watching him.
So tonight Shane Bieber is on the mound. He will face Dylan Cease, and Bieber's a guy that pitched pretty well his last time out, had a couple of rough spots in between, but even his rough spots look pretty good. The Indians need Shane Bieber to be Shane Bieber because you've got Savale, and then behind him there's a lot of question marks behind your front 2 now.
And I think that was a little scary, watching those games where he wasn't pitching his best. And although, in any other scenario and on any other team, Shane Bieber pitching at his roughest is still a great outing. But that is, you're going to be the Tribe's ace, and that's like kind of who they go to. That's their go-to guy. And you are used to that Cy Young performance. Getting back to that, I think, is a really, really good thing. It's really important, especially like I said before, that rotation is just taking a hit, and you don't have Zach Plesac, and you're still working these things out. So yeah, Shane Bieber getting back into that groove of that Cy Young performance, that's what you want to see. But even so, I mean, it is a good thing to have a pitcher on your staff that on their worst day is still as good as a lot of other teams' best pitchers. So that's always a good thing. It is nice to see that he is back out there and kind of getting into a groove. It was a slump, but not so much a slump for anyone else, just a slump for Shane Bieber, something I think that he's starting to bounce back from, and hopefully, you know, getting back to that incredible performance that we see night in, night out from him.
So the Indians' offense, it's been a struggle for the Tribe to score runs. Who do you think, with Reyes on the shelf for a few more weeks still, you know, probably better than a month, who are some of the guys that you're looking for to kind of help carry the load and step up and maybe try to find a way to scratch out some runs for the pitching?
Yeah, it's tough. They call up Owen Miller. You kind of hope that he is able to get something going, and it's a lot of pressure to put on him, getting him in his major, like getting him up here in the majors. But that's something that you would hope that catches on and gets you some hits later on in the order. But in the game where you saw the leadoff home run from Rosario and then followed up by Cesar Hernandez, those are the things that you want to see. Get ahead early while you are dealing with injuries and you're dealing with a struggling batting order. I think, yeah, as much as you want the bats to get hot at the end of the order, it really comes down to making sure they're hot at the top of the order too. So moments like that and games like that, you want starts like that. You want these guys to come out here and show up. And, you know, Jose Ramirez can do it all day long, but he can't do everything for the team. So when you see Rosario and Cesar Hernandez, who's kind of been always like the go-to, very Mr. Consistent, he'll get you a hit, I think that's important. But I think one of the other issues that the team is dealing with is the youth of the team and just wanting to go all in. And it's not just an Indians problem. It's kind of around the league where you're seeing these players wanting to go for everything. They're swinging at the fence, swinging for the fences and striking out. So it's either a walk, a strikeout, or it's a home run. And that's not always the case. So I think getting into the shift of making the priority, getting on base, getting hits, not so much getting home runs and just nailing it out there. I think getting down to the fundamentals and just trying to get those hits is really, really important. Getting more, particular with what you're swinging at. And it comes with time in the league, and the Tribe is dealing with a lot of young guys. So that could be something we see improve too as they go on throughout the season. But and it's not just a Cleveland issue. That's other teams as well, where you're seeing that it's all or nothing pretty much. I think that's something that if they can get back to that, it would be a lot more consistent rather than these rocky roller coaster games where it's no hitters or, just home runs left and right. So that to me is where I'm seeing the inconsistencies. And I think that's kind of that roller coaster of can this team be an offensive presence every night? And, it comes down to those fundamentals, I think. And I hope as the season goes on, you see a little bit more of that. The home runs are fun. They're flashy, but that consistency it puts you at ease a little bit. And I think that would be a lot less stressful going into these games, wondering if they're going to get no hit or if they're going to be able to pull out a win and get some guys on base and get some guys home.
Camryn Justice from News Channel 5, as always. Appreciate the time and the insight. Camryn, thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right, Camryn Justice from News Channel 5. That'll do it for this edition of Sports4CLE. Tomorrow, scheduled guests Dennis Maniloff, the D-Man, and Tim Bielek from cleveland.com and the Plain Dealer. Have a great night, everybody. We will see you again tomorrow at 4 o'clock right here on Sports4CLE.